Are we live? Estamos ao vivo? Bom, se tiver alguém aí, estiver me ouvindo, fala comigo no chat para saber se está tudo certo. Vocês conseguem me ouvir? Vocês conseguem me ver? Dá um oizinho ali no chat. Eu vou esperar um pouquinho enquanto as pessoas chegam. Esse modo de dar aula é novo para mim também. Então a gente vai experimentando e vai aprendendo juntos. Já de antemão, peço desculpas qualquer erros técnicos que porventura possam acontecer, porque a gente está experimentando e aprendendo. A gente vai ver algumas plataformas hoje, então é bom que a gente esteja nesse meio virtual para que a gente possa interagir. Vi que o Leandro tá ali. Oi, Leandro. How are you guys? Daiane. Legal, o pessoal tá chegando. Como vocês estão? Como está a quarentena para vocês? How have you been? Are you studying? Are you staying at home? Do you have to work? Tell me, how are you? While we wait for the others to come. I have to say that I'm so happy to be back at work. You know, you see some videos of professors teaching like through video conferences. They are like on social clothes from the waist up. And from the waist down, they're like wearing their pajamas. That's not the case because I was so happy to dress up today. I even put on some perfume. I'm wearing perfume to teach because it's like telling my brain that everything is going back to normal. Renan, Luisa, Fernanda is eating a lot. Me too, Fernanda. Me too. That's a problem. But I'm also exercising more, so that's good. Gabrielle is here. So you see we have 8 people. There's a delay. There's a little delay. So when you speak with me through the chat, there is like this period of time up until I can see it. All right, so you're going to see there's a little delay. Okay, let me see how many of you are there. So I can see there are 8 of you. I'm going to give you guys some more minutes, right? In order to come and to get acquainted with the platform and everything before we start. Guilherme, you can laugh however you want. That's a free space. I have some empathy, so you can laugh however you want. You see, KKKK is a very dangerous way to laugh in English because KKK is a problematic structure. So if you want to be safe, I would just go with haha, the safest, right? Haha or lol. Lol is more informal. I would say haha is the safest option. André Mien is here. Okay, great. Heitor. Okay, I guess we can start, right? So this is a webinar, as we call it. So it's going to be live stream. But afterwards, after we finish the webinar, it's going to be recorded. So if there's any information you didn't quite follow or you didn't understand, and you want to go back and watch it again, you can do it because it's going to be recorded and available on YouTube. Okay? I know most of you were in our previous class, in our first class, so I know that most of you know me already, but I know that there are some people that weren't in our first class. By the way, I'm listening to your comments and advices. So last class you told me you'd like to have a class in English. I'm trying to make it a smooth transition, so we're going to balance Portuguese and English. I'm trying to speak more English than Portuguese today, but we're going to try and balance both languages so that everybody can follow. You are free to give me feedback, right? So if you're getting a very slow image here, where it's just for me. But can you guys see the slides? Can you see like academic writing? Because the idea is that you can see me like on the corner, and then you can see the slides because that's the focus. So are you seeing like academic writing 202? Universidade Estadual de Londrina, Programa Paraná Fala Inglês. Can you guys see it? Some coffee. And by the way, is the audio okay? Can you listen? Can you hear me well? Okay, so I'm learning how to deal with this live stream platform, program, softwares, whatever it's called. Okay, so I'm going and trying to make it work somehow, but the idea is that I'm smaller in the corner and the slides are bigger. We're going to watch some videos. We're going to explore some websites today. So the idea is that this part is bigger and my face cam is a little smaller on the corner. Okay. So for those of you who don't know me, hello, my name is Felipe. I'm part of the Paraná Speaks Languages program. And inside the Paraná Speaks Language, I'm from the Paraná Speaks English branch, right? So this is a program, on a state level program, that aims at internationalization. So we've been working for several years now towards the internationalization of higher education, tertiary education. So all of our actions are aimed throughout enabling students and researchers, scientists in participating on international scientific community. So that's our bigger goal. Right? You have my email on the screen. So if you need me, any doubts, any questions, you can hit me up. You can buzz me whenever. We also have a Google Classroom platform. You can also speak with me there. If you have any questions, anything you didn't quite follow, anything you didn't quite understand, any of our activities, you can talk to me over there. Okay. Let me see what you're saying. Okay, great. So we're going to have we have organized somehow the classes. We're trying to test the system to see if it works. So the classes we're going to be divided as follows. So we're going to have weekly webinars, this is what we're doing right now. This is a webinar, which would be the theoretical part of our studies. Okay, so the idea is that we discuss theory, rhetorical theory, writing theory, language theory, and that we discuss together at these times. And we're also going to have weekly practical activities in which you're going to be writing. Right. So since this is an academic writing class, you're going to be writing in English a lot. Right. So we're going to be discussing the whole writing process, what is academic writing, as we started last class. And we're going to be discussing all of those things. Okay. So I was to start off by saying how important it is to think about an international scientific community and participating in this community in this moment we're living right now. So we're living a crisis that is worldwide, world spread, right? So every country is living the same crisis. And the answers for this crisis are coming from science. So in order for us to acquire and develop the scientific knowledge that is necessary for us to overcome this crisis, we need to collaborate, right? And you can only collaborate if we're able to speak the same language. So it's very important for us to establish and understand the scientific international community in order to understand how they can collaborate, how we can collaborate if we're part of this community, in order to find better solutions for everybody. So in this pandemic we're living, it's crucial. It's the core of our solutions to be able to participate in this community. Okay. So we're going to start off by, so it's been a while since we had classes, right? We're going to start off by remembering what we discussed last class. I was checking the board we had, and I saw that some of you guys were already contributing in the board. So you guys had already left some comments. I'm going to ask you to access our Padlet. So the link for our Padlet is available on our Google Classroom platform. So you can go there and click on the link. You can just listen to me right now. You don't have to see me. So if you click on the link, you're going to be redirected to this board, which is the quick review board. So it's a Padlet, and I've posted a question there. So the question is, I'm going to go there just a second. Okay. How do I make this visible? Aha, here we go. So this is our board. Okay. And I've posted a question. The question is, what do you remember from our previous class? Okay, so I want you guys to take a moment to think, remember, and to write down a comment, right, about what do you remember from our previous class. You can even add other boards on this bigger board. So if you double click, you can add something, right? So example. I'm going to write here an example so that you can further explore it. So for example, Gabriela said, we discussed the components of scientific articles and answer some questions about its relevance. Very good, Gabriela, very good comment. So let's recall, what are the components of scientific articles? So I'm going to add a board here of components of scientific articles. Okay, so what are the characteristics of scientific writing, academic writing? What do you remember? What does it have to have in order to be considered academic writing? So I'm going to ask you to go to our Padlet. Again, our link is available on our Google Classroom. So I'm going to ask you to go there and to comment. Okay, so what are the components of scientific articles? What are the characteristics, the features of academic writing? Let me see your comments. No, I want you to go back. Can I see the comments and the Padlet? Let me see if it's possible. Guys, I'm learning. Sorry. I'm learning with you. Okay, I guess it works. Okay, so let's see other comments. What do we have? So Caroline said, we discussed the general features of academic writing. Very good, Caroline. And the other difference between it and other types of writing. Do you remember, guys, what were the other types of writing we discussed? And what are the differences between them? Fernanda said, we proved that art and science can be a match. Yes, we did that. So we drew our researches, right? How good was that? What's so fun? And we discussed the main components of academic writing and its relevance to our context. Very good. Leticia said, we also learned about some common assumptions about academic writing. Very good. So that's another topic. So what are the assumptions of academic writing? What do people usually think academic writing is all about? And are they true? Right? How to anonymous comments. We discussed what is important for a scientific article or scientific language. Okay, we also presented our master's PhD works using drawings and a guess game. That was very good. We talked about scientific components and the importance of a context in any kind of writing. Very good. So that's another thing we discussed, right? So what is the importance of context for writing? Okay, so guys, I have opened other boards, other posts for you to comment. I'm going to give you some time for you to answer all of those as well, right? So the components of scientific articles, I've seen that Fernanda has already answered that. Assumptions of academic writing, so what do you remember, what we discussed, what people usually think academic writing is all about, and what is the importance of the context for writing. Do you remember the O Sonho Acabou activity, right? So why is it? What is context and why is it important? Where is the comment of Fernanda? It disappeared. Let me see what you guys are saying. Okay, here it is. It is back. We discussed memes. We did, Caroline, right? So we're discussing the concept of textual genres. Do you guys remember what is a genre? So when we're talking about textual genres, we discussed memes, right? Do you guys remember what is the function of a meme? Why do we produce memes? Why do people write memes? So let's see what Fernando wrote. Title, abstract, introduction, method, results, discussion, and references. Very good. We're discussing also in our first class that those sections can vary across disciplines, right? So depending on which field of knowledge you're from, those characteristics might differ, right? So, for example, in humanities sciences, usually we have a section for literature review, in which we present our concepts, our core concepts, we present the authors we read in which we are basing our work. So, what are the definition of the concepts we're using, and how all of this build up to show our results, right? So, how this contribute to our work. On the other hand, if you go, for example, for the engineering science field, you can see that sections as methodology or methods are usually very short. There are some examples, there are some cases in which the methodology section is only one sentence, right? So they can use, for example, they can write, for example, I use the method blah, X. And because it's a very fixed concept, so everybody knows what method X is all about. Everybody understands, so you don't need to explain further. In our case, humanities, we have pages and pages of explanations of description when we have a methodology section. So we're describing our locus, our subjects of research, our choices, our methodological choices. All of this has to be explained in order to make it clear for the reader what we're doing in our work. Okay. Yeah. So Caroline said that the objective of memes is to be funny. That's good. So every genre of text has a communicative objective, right? So there's a reason for every genre of text to exist, to come into being. So for the memes, it is to be funny, to make people laugh, right? And how do we know a meme is a meme? So there are some characteristics. There are fixed characteristics that tell us that that text belongs to the textual genre meme. Okay, so there is usually a very known image, a very famous image that belongs to pop culture, and short sentences. So there is usually a sentence at the top of the page of the image, and there is a sentence at the bottom of the page, right? The same is true for research articles, right? When you look at a research article, you can right away spot it. You can right away say it's a research article. How come? Because there are fixed characteristics as well, right? We know the language is formal, so we know, for example, there will not be any abbreviations, any slangs, for example. We also know that there is a title, and there's the name of the articles and their affiliation, so from which university they're from. There's an abstract. If you're writing in Portuguese, there is a resumo within an abstract. There is an introduction. Before the introduction, there are keywords, so there is an introduction. Then all of those sections Fernanda just told us about. Okay? So guys, I'm waiting for you to answer the other boards I've just posted. Okay, so what do you remember about the assumptions of academic writing? Okay, do you remember we talked about being personal? Remember we talked about reading and writing being a passive activity, or rather an active activity. We also talk about style. So can you add your style to academic writing? So I'm going to wait a few minutes for you guys to add all of those comments in their boards I've just added in our Padlet board. Okay? No, I want to go back. I want to see our comments. So let's see what you guys are saying. Okay, guys, were everybody able to access our Padlet? You have to click on it. If you want to have your name, very good. So if you want to have your name published with your comments, you have to log in, but you don't need to. You can post as an anonymous, just like the comments that was just published. So let's see. What is the importance of context for writing? So reading is not only decoding a text. Very good. So that was one of the assumptions, right? We discussed the assumption that people usually think that reading means decoding a text. So if you know the meaning of each separate word, you're going to understand the text, right? Which is not always true, as we discussed. You can not know the meaning of one specific word in your text, and yet know the meaning, understand the whole idea, the whole concept of the text, while you can also know the meaning of every single word separately, and still not understand what is the whole text all about, right? So reading is not about reading words, it's about reading ideas, really, right? So if you are able to get in touch with the idea of the text, the general concept, then you are reading, right? Not only decoding each and every word, right? So in order to fully understand it, it is necessary to be part of the context it was written. It goes with writing as well. When you are writing in a specific moment about a specific fact. Very good. You don't need to be a part of the context to understand the text, but you need to understand the context, right? You can read texts that are from different contexts, but still, if you're able to understand the context, or if you're able to understand who the writer is, not personally, but socially, so for our case, research articles. So if you're able to understand that an author, the writer of research article, is a researcher, right, a scientific researcher, so there's meaning there, right? So it's going to tell us some information, okay? But if you're, so you don't need to be a part of the context, but if you're able to understand the context, you're able to understand, to fully comprehend the text, right? So about the assumptions, Fernanda just said, academic writing should be formal, very good, objective, very good, based on fact and not opinions. Describe reference-based information, very good. So that's it, we discussed, right? And there's a difference between being objective and being personal, right? So we had this whole discussion that this idea of playing in personality is a bit idealistic. So it's difficult to achieve because you are a person writing a text. So there is a degree of subjectivity that is implied in your text, right? Because you are a person, you are a subject, you are not an object. So you cannot be 100% objective in your text. So your text is going to be influenced by who you are, where you're writing from, all of those things. But still, right, those categories are not, they're not fixed, right? So there is a spectrum between them. We need to be as objective as possible, right? Even though fully objectivity, fully impersonality is a concept that is difficult to achieve, okay? So I guess that will do for our review. Very good. Thank you guys for participation. I need to go back to our slides. Okay, so let me see what you guys are saying in our chat. Okay, so you're logging in Padlet. Guys, if you want to comment without logging in, that's possible as well, right? You don't need to be logged in to comment in our Padlet. You can comment as and anonymous, that will do just fine. Okay, ooh, where are my slides? Okay, very good. I'm going to give you guys some time to go back to our live so you can leave Padlet behind now. Oh, we have one more comment. Let's see. So Mien said, about passive and active language, very good. There is a scientific article that recommends the use of passive language over active language because the former one highlights the importance of the data or the methods and not the person who wrote. Very good. So we also discussed there are differences between scientific fields, right? So for us in Portuguese, usually uh, it is advised that we do not use the first person when writing. So it is advised that we use passive language, impersonal language. However, in English, for our international scientific community, so there is this tendency that has been growing, uh, and it's becoming more and more popular, more and more common, that we use first language when writing in English, right? In order to show a reader that we are a person that is writing in English and that might affect the knowledge we are producing, right? So it was true even in international communities that in the past it was more common for us to write passively, impersonally, when writing scientific articles in English. But right now, for now, usually it's more common and it's more advised when you're writing in English to use first person, right? Which doesn't mean that you're going to be subjective on your writing, right? Even though you're using first person, it can also be objective and fact based when writing, right? So it's not because you're writing in the first person that you're going to use your opinion or your personal views of the world as arguments, okay? So writing for scientific context, we need to be anchored in facts and in other references, other studies. Okay, very good. So Catalina just said it's important to identify who you're writing for, what's your public. Very good. So it's going to change everything, right? So if you're talking with people that are from the same field as you are, right? So if you're talking, for example, in your case, if you're talking with psychologists from the behavior analysis field, right, it's going to be one thing. So you don't, for example, you don't need to explain some concepts that are basic in your field. But let's say your research has to do with education and you're trying to publish, you're aiming at publishing in a journal that is from the field of education, right? So probably you'll have to explain further concepts that comes from the field of psychology, and they are not very common in the field of education, right? Very good, guys. Let's see. So Mieni has a question, right? Let's see what Mieni said. I don't remember the assumptions of academic writing. We discussed a lot, but I can't remember. Okay. So writing scientific articles like a native English speaker. Mario Marlowe Doy. It's an English article. Okay, so you read this article, dear Miani. What is your question? I don't think I have read it. I can take a look. I'm going to save it. I'm going to read and go back to you. But do you have a specific question about this article? Uh, I'm guessing it's the article you mentioned in your comment, right? So he says about passive and active language. Okay. Okay, so I have already answered. Let's move on. Okay, so this is what we discussed our last class. So for the ones that weren't in our last class, so this is a quick review, quick summary. And for those who were in our first class, it's nice to remember, right? So let's move on from that. Let me go back for my PowerPoint. Okay, very good. So you guys are going to see that we understand writing as a process, right? So it's a process that is so there are several steps to this process, right? So there are several ways that we can approach this process, and I'm going to present one division, right? And we're going to go about one of these steps today, right? We're going to discuss one of these steps today, but further as we move on in our course, we're going to discuss the others as well, right? So the first part of the writing process is what we call pre-writing. Oh, my cam is on the way. Okay, so you don't see me anymore, right? So just for this slide. So pre-writing. Pre-writing means to get it together, right? So everything you do in order to plan your research, plan your text. So any sort of information that you're going to put in your text, right? The organization, the overall idea. So this includes brainstorming, building mind maps. You're going to build a mind map for our practice activities this week, right? You're going to see, I'm going to explain further. But everything you do in order to get together to gather the information you need in order to write your text, reading, summarizing, writing reviews of other texts that are relevant to your research, everything we do in order to plan our text and have a general overview. Okay, so this is pre-writing. After pre-writing, we have drafting, and I think I can go back. Yeah, so drafting. Drafting is actually writing, right? So when you start writing, the objective of a draft is not to get it correct the first time, but rather to get it written, right? So to get it down. It's very difficult for perfectionists usually, and scientific researchers are usually perfectionists. I relate to that a lot in a deeper level. So it's very difficult usually to let go of this idea and this need we have to have everything, to get everything correct the first time, right? So there is a researcher that says that the biggest enemy of a writer is a blank page, right? The idea here is not to think too much about this process, but rather to get it down, to have something to work on, right? So this is going to be the rough stage of writing, right? It's not the final product. Have that in mind that we're going to work on the text. But when we're drafting, we're just aiming at getting written, getting something that we can work on later on. So after the draft, we have revising, right? So after you wrote, after you drafted, right, you need to get it right. So you revise, you go back to your text, and you see what are the things that are making sense, things that are not clear. Usually it's good to do this when you give it some time. So you write a text, give it some time, and then go back to your text in order to revise it. Because in that way, you're going to have fresh ideas, you're going to have fresher eyes, right? You're going to read your text. You can read your text with the eyes of your reader, and you can think if everything makes sense as a whole, right? After revising, there's time for proofreading. So proofreading is getting it polished, right? So just making fine tunes, correcting details, grammar mistakes, word choice, things that are not very, do not have bigger impacts in your text, but still are important to convey the message you want to convey, to mean the things you want to mean, right? And to get your reader the way you want to get your reader, okay? And then after proofreading, finally, there's publishing, okay? So publishing is to getting it read, right? So you publish in order to spread the word, spread the work you've done, right? We're going to see and we understand that writing is a cycle, it's a process, right? Pre-writing activities are not only done in the beginning, right? As well as proofreading is not only done at the end of the text. We're going to have activities that encompass all of those processes throughout our course, right? And we're going to go back and revisit our text, revise our text, draft, redraft several times, right? In order to get it ready to be published, right? This cycle can be never ending, can be infinite, right? But we, as authors, as writers, have to decide when to finish it, right? So it's up to us to put a period in our cycle and to say, okay, now this text is ready to be published, okay? Before we go into the writing cycle in itself, we're going to talk about a little bit about publishing in international contexts, right? So you guys told me that understanding the writing, how people write, is also understand the community, is also understand the context, right? So we discussed last class, not only that context matters, but that context means, right? So that's the objective of today's class, webinar, if you will, is to understand how to publish, how the editorial process works, right? In an international perspective, international communities, and how is it different from the Brazilian editorial process, the Brazilian publishing community, journal community. Okay, let me see what you guys are saying. Are you following? Do you have any questions, any doubts before we move on? Am I speaking too fast? Are you able to follow? Is it working for you? Everybody's understanding everything? Give me some feedback here. So far, so good. No questions here. Very good. So let's move on. We're going to go back to our Padlet in a second because, okay, so before we do that, sorry. So there is a cartoon just to illustrate what we're discussing. Let me hide my camera again. Okay. So it says, this is a quite surprising discovery. Then write it up for the Journal of Surprising Discoveries, okay? So the first step in order to get our text read, to get it published, is to understand where we want to publish it, right? So what is the most appropriate journal, context, community in order to spread the word, spread the knowledge we have created, we have developed, okay? So this is what we're going to talk about today. So before we dive into, let me put me back over there. Okay. So before we dive into the editorial process in an international community, right? Let's discuss what is the editorial process in Brazil. So I'm going to go back to our Padlet and I'll ask you guys to do the same. Okay. So Padlet. And I'm going to open a post for you guys to share. So have you already published a scientific text? So what are the steps of the editorial process? Okay, so if you want to get a text published, what do you have to do? Let's say you have gone through all of those this process of writing that we have discussed, that I have showed you, and you want to get it published. So what do you do? What is the first thing you do? How does it work? And first, have you already published? Have you never published? All right, so tell me, what is your experience with journals and publishing in Brazil? Can you guys see the Padlet? We're going to talk today about different types of journals, right? And hopefully by the end of today, we're going to have a grasp. We're going to have a an idea of what it's like and what are the differences between the scientific community in Brazil and scientific community in an um international context, international community, right? So Caroline said, I never published anything, but I tried once. And how did it go, Caroline? So how was the experience, right? You tried and you didn't succeed. So what was the barrier, right? Why? What happened there? Fernanda said, yes, first I make sure that the article is following the periodic rules. That's very good. So that was your homework we're going to discuss because we're going to do something with the information you collected from your homework, right? And it has to do with the periodic rules, right? So journal rules, so submission guidelines, author guidelines. So for references, structure, number of pages, very good. First of all, we have to choose the periodic. Yes, that will submit our article, of course. Yes, so you see, these instructions, these guidelines of number of pages, structure, they are previous to the writing process in itself, right? Of course, you can make adaptations. So let's say you have a text that is already written and you want to publish, you can sort of squeeze it into the guidelines of a specific journal, right? But if you have an idea where you want to publish beforehand, you can also write it bearing in mind the structure that is going to be asked of you when you want to publish it, right? So let's say you want to publish in a given journal that asks for introduction, literature review, methodology, and results, right? So those are the sections you're going to focus on while writing your paper, okay? Very good. Have you guys ever had trouble accessing an article? So let's say you found this paper that is just what we're looking for, that is perfect for your research, and then you try to download it, and you can't, you're not able to. Has this ever happened to you? And again, has this ever happened to you in Portuguese, for papers that are written in Portuguese? And has it ever happened to you for articles that are written in English? So Miani said, the steps are the submission article to the journal editor, very good. Waiting for the first review. Waiting for the first review. So it depends on the journal. This can take ages. That's so true, right? So it's a very time-demanding process, right? Receive the feedback from the peer review, make eventual adjustments, return the author document to the editor, wait more ages to pass, and finally receive the final review. Very good. So as Mian very clearly stated, right? So it's a process that takes a lot of time, usually, right? So for journals to receive your article, indicate that you are, accepted or not accepted, to go through the peer review process. So you receive a review of your article, you have to make the adjustments they indicate, and then you give it back to them. They eventually have a second peer review, a second indications of adjustments, and then you give it back to them. So this can take up to years, right, to go through fully. Caroline said, my article was accepted for submission, but then to publish, it was accepted with correction, and I didn't have the time to correct because there are so many things, and then I just gave up, but I tried to submit it again. That's very good, Caroline. If you want to, you can even use this, if it's in English, of course. You can use this article and make the adjustments in our course, right? So we'll discuss this later. Very good. So usually in Brazil, let me go back for my Let me go back to my slides. Yeah. So usually in Brazil, right, our journals are what we call open access, right? We're going to discuss this later on in a few minutes. But usually, so you don't have to pay anything to submit your article, usually in Brazil. There are two types of journals. There are journals that receive articles independently of calls, right? So we call this fluxo contínuo, periódicos de fluxo contínuo. So in these articles, you can read the theme of the article, see if it's appropriate for the research you've developed, see if it fits the guidelines, and if so, you can send it to the editors, right? And then you're going to go through all of the editorial process. Once you send it to an editor journal, it is advised not to send it to other journals, even though it takes a lot of time, right? You never know in which journals you're going to get accepted. So it's advisable to wait for the answers of the journal, right? There are other types of journal that depends on the call for papers, right? So those journals are not fluxo contínuo. So they don't receive research papers whenever. They only receive research papers when they have the calls open, right? And then you need to adjust your article. So your research paper has to have to do with the theme of the call, right? So there are special editions, and it has to be appropriate to the edition of the call. Okay. Usually in Brazil, all of the journals, all of the publications are open access, right? So it means that you don't have to pay anything in order to access the works that are published. The same is not true for international community. I'm sure many of you, if you guys are used on researching on international databases, you guys are going to see that there are many articles that are protected, right? And have limited access, right? So not anybody can access the articles. Usually have to pay. We're going to discuss all of this today, right? And hopefully by the end of today's webinar, you can compare Brazilian community and international community, okay? So I have here some concepts that are very common and are very crucial in understanding the editorial process in an international community. So we have impact factor, subscription paywall, research funding, article processing charge, DARA, and OA journals, right? On the next slides, I'm going to show you the definition of those concepts. And what I want you to do, I want you to please take notes on these terms, on these concepts, right? So if you have paper near you, you can jot it down, or else you can write it down on your cell phone. You can open a Word document file and write it down, because I'm going to show you several definitions, and I want you guys to tell me which of these concepts you think are being defined by the definition. Okay, so I'm going to give you some time to jot it down. You can also screen the concepts if you want to, if whatever is easier for you. Let me know when everybody's ready. You guys are going to see as well that for some of these concepts, we have similar concepts in the Brazilian community, Brazilian context, but with slightly different implications, right? So we're going to discuss. Okay, so the first definition is, so it's a method of restricting access to articles via paid subscription used by journals that are not open access. So which of these concepts are being described? Tell me on the chat over here. or over there. I feel such like a teenager doing this. Okay, so what is the concept that is being described? Methods of restricting access to articles via paid subscription used by journals that are not open access. What do you think is being defined here? Which of the concepts? Subscription paywall. Very good, Leandro. So, 100% true. Subscription paywall. Okay, so a subscription paywall is an impediment, right? It's a wall, as the name says, right? That is in the way of your access to a research article that is only open via payment, right? So if you are subscribed to a specific journal, you have access to that specific research paper. If not, the access is not made available to you. Okay. Usually, if you're accessing these journals on campus, there are some universities. Well, for example, subscribe to several journals from several scientific fields, right? And if you're using either your institutional email, so @well, right, or using Wi-Fi on campus, you're going to have the subscription paywall open for you, so you're going to have access. But so you have to have access to the subscription, which is not cheap. I'm going to show you one example of an article that is protected via subscription paywall. Let me go back to Chrome. Okay, so this is an article, as you can see. It's not. So it can only access the abstract. So it's an article on behavior analysis. So culture and child attachment patterns, a behavior assistant synthesis, right? We have the information of the authors, right? We have the information on the journal in which it was published. So perspectives on behavior science, right? The years, you can have the information for citation, how many accesses it had, and the abstract. And that's about it, okay? I also have notes and references. But you don't have further information. You don't have access to the whole study unless you buy the article or you subscribe to the journal, okay? So this is a subscription paywall, right? You can only access this article if you have the subscription. So if you have subscribed to this journal, okay? Very good. Let me go back to my slides. Very good. Next concept. So it is a fee which is sometimes charged to authors to make a work available open access in either an open access journal or hybrid journal. So we're going to discuss both of these concepts later on, okay? Open access journal and hybrid journal. This fee may be paid by the author's institution, or the research funder. Okay? So what is the concept that is being what is the concept that is being described here, right? What do you think? So a fee which is sometimes charged authors to make a work available open access in either an open access journal or hybrid journal. This fee may be paid by the author's institution, or their research funder. It's not Dara. So it's a fee which is sometimes charged, and then charged is a keyword here, right? You understand what is a fee? So a fee is something you have to pay, right? And again, this fee, in this case, can be paid either by the author himself or herself, the institution in which the author is affiliated, right? So in our example, right, the university, or the research funder. So, for example, CAPES, right? Article processing charged. That's it. Article processing charge, sometimes referred to as APC as well. We're going to explore some journals today, some websites, and you're going to see that APC is a very common concept. So APC is a term that appears a lot in their websites, right? So you see, if you want to go over the subscription paywall in your article, so if you want your article to be published and accessed by anybody, everybody, so if you want to make your results or findings accessible, usually for the international community, you have to pay a fee. So you have to pay the article processing charge, right? This value depends on the journal itself and on the research, right? For some journals, it depends on the number of pages. For some journals, it depends on the type of work that is being done. So if it's a review, if it's a literature mapping, if it's a research article, a research paper, if it's a right. So it depends on the type of text that is being published for some journals, or the length of the text for other journals. Okay, so there is no such thing in Brazil, right? Not that I'm aware of. I've never heard about anything in Brazil that is like the article processing charge, but it's very common in an international community. Okay. Do you have any questions about the article processing charge? Yeah, I know, Caroline. Okay, next concept. So it's funding obtained for scientific research. Most comes from two major sources. So corporations, known as private funding. So there are departments in private institutions, private corporations that are called research and development departments. So through these departments, or public funding, right? So through the government. So primarily carried out through universities and specialized government agencies, often known as research councils, right? So in Brazil, we have CAPES, for example, CNPq. All of those are research, government research corporations, right? So it's public funding. So what is the concept being explained here? So what is the concept being defined? What do you think? Research funding, very good. So this is research funding, right? So in other words, who pays for your research, right? So this can include monthly stipendios, so sort of a salary for the research to maintain himself or herself, pay for basic bills, housing, food, or anything else that includes your research materials, right? Books, journal subscription, articles, if so. And sometimes the research funding companies also are responsible for paying the article processing charge. Okay? Not always, but sometimes. Very good. Our next concept. This is the number of citations of a given journal in the last 2 years divided by the total number of publications in the same period. The higher this number, the more status and prestige the journal has. Okay? So the number of citations in the last 2 years divided by the number of publications. So how many papers were published in a journal in the last 2 years, and how many of those papers were cited, and how many times they were cited. Okay, so what is the concept being explained here? What do you think? We have something that is very similar in Brazil. Então, para a gente aqui no Brasil, no processo editorial de publicação brasileiro, a gente tem o Qualis, né, que é essa avaliação. Ela não é baseada unicamente em citações, como é no contexto americano. Impact factor. Very good, Leandro. This is impact factor. Impact factor. Então, impact factor é a Qualis internacional. Então, a Qualis brasileira vai do A1, sendo a maior avaliação, até o C, que é a menor avaliação. Até o B2, a avaliação da CAPES leva em consideração também o número de citação, quantas vezes cada trabalho foi citado, mas esse é um dos critérios, né? Existem outros critérios de qualidade, número de instituições que são publicadas naquele periódico, né? Do B2 em diante, então B3, B4, B5 e C, a avaliação é feita a partir dos bancos de dados nos quais esses trabalhos são indexados, né? Então, não é levado em consideração na segunda parte da análise de qualis, né? De qualis, não é levado em consideração somente as citações, né? E na primeira também são outros critérios, incluindo as citações, ok? No contexto internacional, entretanto, a análise das citações tem um papel muito maior, muito grande, né? E esse prestígio é desprendido muito ao periódico em si. Então, os periódicos que têm um impact factor maior, né, geralmente são os mais procurados, com mais acesso. As subscription paywalls são as mais caras também. Mas tudo isso, essas publicações que são feitas nesses periódicos, dão aos autores, aos pesquisadores, mais valor, mais agregação ao currículo. É muito comum, por exemplo, na comunidade internacional, que para subir de cargo numa universidade existe uma certa demanda de publicação em periódicos com impact factor X, né? Então tudo isso cria uma comunidade que se organiza ao redor da ideia de impact factor. Existem muitas discussões e especialmente tem vindo com muita força essa tendência, essa discussão de problematizar a organização e levar em consideração somente o impact factor do journal na hora de avaliar as publicações, porque o argumento que se constrói é que nem sempre o impact factor está relacionado com a qualidade do trabalho, né? Existem casos de fraude, por exemplo, em pesquisa, que foram publicadas em periódicos com impact factor muito altos, né? E do outro lado também existem trabalhos com uma qualidade muito alta, que são recusados por periódicos com impact factor altos e acabam ou não sendo publicados ou sendo publicados em periódicos com impact factor menor, que por sua vez têm pouco acesso, né? Então recebem poucas citações, pouco reconhecimento, ok? Então isso é uma parte muito grande da cultura editorial acadêmica internacional, ok? Alguma dúvida sobre isso? Mudei para o português para a gente balancear um pouquinho. Estava falando muito inglês, eu percebi. Mas aí eu vou balanceando, tá? Falando um pouquinho de português, um pouquinho de inglês. Ok? Próximo conceito. So, the concept is so this one is the easiest one, right? Declaration on Research Assessment. Document originating from 2012 meeting of the American Society of Cell Biology in San Francisco. It intends to halt the practice of correlating the journal impact factor to the merits of a specific scientist's contributions. Okay? So, what is the concept here? So, Declaration on Research Assessment. What do you say? So do you guys have the list of concepts on you? So you can see that it's an abbreviation, so this concept. DARA, very good, Leandro, thank you. So this is DARA, right? Declaration on Research Assessment. I'm going to choose to show you the website for this declaration. So it was written back in 2012 by the American Association of Cell Biology. Just a second. Here, okay? So this is the website for DARA, right? So this is a mark on this trend that I've been talking about, which is problematizing and reanalyzing the impact factor culture, right? So correlating the impact factor of a journal to the merits or the quality of a research, right? So there has been lots of uh, reviews of this idea, of this concept, right? There are many critics of this idea, and as a mark of that, so as a milestone of that, there is this declaration on research assessment that advocates for a review for a more complex and complete, more humane way of assessing, evaluating the quality of this research, and also a more uh, finding more ways, and funding more ways to provide access to this knowledge, this research that is being developed. Okay, so if you want to, you can access the website. You have the address here, and you can read the full declaration. And if you agree with that, you can even sign as researchers. Okay, so we have here some guidelines, some recommendations. So what has to be done in order to offer more access and more and better, a more complete and a better organized, structured way of assessing research. Okay, very good. Let me go back to my slides. Let me see if you guys have any questions. What you're saying? Yeah, Data is a very interesting document. It's definitely worth the reading, right? You're going to be practice your reading skills as well. It's not a very difficult reading, uh, but it's very interesting to understand the community, right? So everything that we're discussing here today, hopefully will offer you an overview of the international scientific community, right? So that you bear in mind all of those concepts, right? Everything that is happening in an international scenario while you're writing your text, right? Because all of this scenario, everything that is happening in the international community will have an impact on how you write your text. Okay, so as we discussed, context means, right? Context matters and context means. So everything that is happening will have an impact on your text. Okay, very good. I think we have one more concept. Let me see. Yeah, so it's the last one, no mystery, right? So those are journals that offers possibilities of open access, practices through which research outputs are distributed online free of costs or other access barriers, right? So what is that? So this is our last concept. So this is a specific type of journal that is becoming more and more common nowadays. What do you think it is? Keyword here is open access, right? So those are open access journals. What do you think? What is the concept? Very good. OA journals, right? So OA stands for open access journals, right? Here we go. Open access journals. So those are the journals. Yes, OA. So those are the journals in which, for one way or other, right? One organization or other ways of organization, articles are distributed for the public for free, right? There are three types of open access journals, right? We have golden open access journals, green open access journals, and hybrid open access journals, okay? In Brazil, right, we don't have this concept of open access journals because for us, according to this classification, every journal would be a golden journal, right? Every journal would be an open access journal completely, okay? But it's not the same. It's not true for American institutions, okay? So what is the difference? So for golden journals, All articles are available for free under Creative Commons license. However, authors or sponsors are asked to pay APC, right? So every publication for this journal is free for all, right? They are not protected by a subscription paywall, which means that you don't have to subscribe to this article in order to have access to the research papers, right? But on the other hand, there's no free lunch, right? So somebody has to pay for this access in an international community. And in this case, this payment is made through APC, so article processing charge. Okay, somebody has to pay the article processing charge. Sometimes it's paid by the author himself or herself. Sometimes it's paid by the institution in which the author is affiliated. Sometimes it is paid by the funder, right? So the institution that is funding your research. We're going to see some examples of golden journals in a minute, okay? And then we have green journals. So green journals are called self-archiving repositories in which preprints or near final versions are made available by the authors, okay? So it's not an official journal, right? So it's a repository, a self-archiving repository, usually constructed by institutions, in which authors spontaneously upload near final versions of the articles in order to make it accessible to the public. Okay, so usually for journals that are not open access, if the author does not have the subscription or doesn't buy the article, they don't have access to the final version, right? So you cannot access the article that is published even though you are the author. But you have access to near final versions. So the version that is sent to the editor after all of the peer reviewing process, okay? And this is the version that is uploaded on green journals, right? So it's a self-archiving repository, right? And then I have hybrid journals, which is a mixture of open access journals and journals that are not open access, right? So in this type of journal, the author has the option to make his article published in open access or not, usually under the payments of APC, right? So you have the choice in this article, in this journal. You have to choose if you want your article to be open access or not. But if you choose to make it open access, you have to pay the fee. You have to pay the article processing charge, right? If you choose not to pay the article processing charge, right, your article is not going to be made available for the public to access, right? So only the ones that are subscribed to the journal or pay the individual fee have access to that research, okay? So it's a choice. Very good. Guys, do you have any questions? Yeah, teacher, we are sending the messages right after you ask us, but I think there's some delay until they get to you. Just so you don't think we are ignoring you. Thank you, Fair. Yes, I know there is a delay. I'm trying to get used to all this organization, right? How to teach. It's very different than teaching in person. So thank you for the heads up. Thank you for telling me. But I'm aware. Yeah, I'm using this software. So before the video goes to YouTube, the video goes through the software. So there is a lot of processing here, right? So I imagine that's why there is this delay, right? But don't worry, right? I understand. Very good. So no questions about open access journals, right? Very good. So this movement, so there is this, as we saw on Dara, right? So Dara was a milestone on this movement that is called open science, has been a trend in the international community, right? So there is this discussion that advocates, right? So there's these movements that advocate for a science that is more open in an international context and international community. As you saw, right, there are several obstacles through the access of research papers in an international community, right? So there are subscription paywalls, there are journals that are not open access, If you want to make it open access, you have to pay a fee, you have to pay the article processing charge, right? So there are lots of obstacles, and this has an impact in the international community itself, right? So we're going to watch a video about open science, right? And we're going to explore a little bit some platforms that offer open science. So there are open science platforms. You're going to understand a little bit what is this movement that has been growing in the international scenario, and what are the pros and the cons of it. Okay? So we're going to watch a video by Camila Markram, right? She is the founder and CEO of one open science platform. She's going to explain a little bit about it in the video. It's a 13-minute video, so I'm going to ask you to bear with me through the watch. Okay, it's a TED Talk. It's very easy to follow. I'm going to play it with subtitles in English. And I want you to pay attention on two things, right? What are the good aspects, the good points of open science, right? So what are the pros and the cons, right? What are the consequences of open science? Is there a bad science? Is there a bad side in making science accessible to everybody? Maybe in the publishing editorial process, right? Are there any shortcomings? Are there any consequences at all? Okay, so I want you to pay attention in these two aspects of open science, right? So what are the pros and what are the cons? Later on, I'm going to open a space for us in our Padlet platform, okay? And you guys are going to publish your ideas, right? So what are the pros of open science and what are the cons of open science, right? So I'm going to set things up. I'm going to start playing the video. While I do that, if you have any questions, if you didn't understand, send me the questions in our chat, okay? So I'm going to make it available. Just a second. So, English. Very good. Okay, so this is the video. Before I play, let me see if you have any questions. Yeah, Carol. You see, there are social consequences of science. That's why we're discussing in our last class that it all depends, right? So no knowledge is objective, no knowledge is impersonal. So who you are impacts on your research, right? And how your research is made available in our community, right? So publishing our research is a very big part of being a researcher, right? So we produce knowledge, we create knowledge, we develop knowledge in order to share, right? In order to contribute with society in a way, right? But we are able to do so, right? Depending on social structures, right? So there's a social point, there's a social degree in which our research is influenced. Okay, unfortunately. Do you guys have any questions? Can you watch the video? Are you ready? So during the video, you're not going to see me or hear me. You're going to be listening to Camila Macran. She speaks very good. It's a very good TED Talk. And please pay attention to those two aspects I've told you. Okay? So good signs of open science and bad signs of open science. Okay? Pros and cons. Is everybody ready? Ready. Very good. So here we go, guys.
We live in exceptional times. There have never been more scientists on this planet than today, and they're making scientific breakthroughs at an exponential rate. So every year the world spends 2.3 trillion US dollars to fund 8 million scientists. And we do all of this so we can live longer, healthier, and more prosperous lives. Every year, these scientists write 2 million scientific articles where they report their results. Now, this sounds all great, doesn't it? But there is a problem here that few are aware of, but that deeply affects all of us. And the problem is that 90% of these scientific results are locked up behind expensive paywalls. Cures to diseases, clean energy solutions are just not widely accessible. You, the taxpayers, have paid for this research, yet you cannot access it. The doctor who is treating you today does not have access to the latest medical studies. And worse, even many scientists can't read these articles because many universities actually can't afford to pay all the subscription fees to all the scientific journals out there. Imagine, from your taxpayers' money, you pay for the highways in your country. And then imagine a company would come along and put up a toll gate and charge you so much money that only the richest cars can afford to use this highway. Now, we would never allow this to happen on our roads, would we? But then why? Why are we allowing this to happen to our scientific knowledge? The gatekeeper, the subscription journal system, justifies itself by saying that they're allowing only the highest impact studies, the best research, to pass through. But as well, studies have shown that trying to predict impact is like gambling. And a serious side effect of the selection process is that many valid studies get at first rejected and are bounced around from journal to journal until they finally do get published. It happens even to the best research. Take, for example, this article on graphene. It was rejected twice and took at least 1 year to get published. And then, in 2010, this article went on to win the Nobel Prize in Physics. The scale of the problem is actually massive. Of the 2 million science articles that are published every year, at least 1 million valid research articles are at first rejected and bounced. Just one bounce delays the publication by at least 6 months. And that means that the total delay introduced to publish valid research is at least 500,000 years, every single year. It also means that researchers waste at least 100 million hours in resubmitting their research article to another journal at a cost of $10 billion every year. Just imagine if researchers would use this amount of time and money to find a solution for cancer, Alzheimer's disease, or climate change. Now, the good news is that there is an extremely simple solution out there today, and it's called open science. And in open science, everybody in the world has the right to access the latest research articles and the data for free. In a closed subscription model, universities pay publishers so that their scientists can read the articles. In the new open science model, universities also pay publishers, but this time to process all their valid research articles, and then everybody can read for free. And ironically, it costs much less to process articles, so universities could actually save $6 billion every year to do more research. The closed subscription system hunts for these few best articles and introduces these massive delays. The new open science model takes on the responsibility to publish all valid research articles and instead focuses on optimizing efficiency and quality control. And if we were to adopt open science universally, we could completely eliminate those 500,000 years of delay. Now, as a neuroscientist, I saw these problems firsthand. And together with my husband Henry, who is also a neuroscientist, we decided to do something about this. So 9 years ago, we started Frontiers, which is an open science platform, and today one of the largest open access publishers in the world. And because we commit ourselves to publish all the valid science out there, the biggest challenge that we actually face is the following. How do you process large amounts of articles efficiently and at the highest quality possible? Well, publishing is not the only industry that faces this type of quality at scale challenge. Take, for example, air traffic control. Here, the worst case scenario is a plane crash, very obviously. For us, that would translate into publishing a bad article. The second worst case scenario is grounded planes. For us, that would mean that articles would get delayed in the pipeline. So then how do you fly many planes safely? Well, the first thing that you need to fly safely is the very best pilots. So Frontiers has only leading researchers running the journals, currently 70,000 scientists from all the top universities, Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, Stanford, and so forth. And their role is to peer review and quality control the articles. Their role is not to select for impact. For that, we've actually built online technology that measures the readership and the impact of the articles objectively online. And because we do not try to predict impact, which is highly debatable, we can also be completely transparent. So we publish the names of the people who judged the articles, and we link them to online profiles so that everybody in the world can see who reviewed, edited, and authored the articles. And that type of transparency has never been done before in publishing, and it introduces a chain of accountability. Now, the next thing that you need to fly safely is standard operating procedures at each stage of the flight and the very best technology to enable your pilots. So Frontiers has built an online review forum where reviewers and authors can interact with each other. And we've automated all the quality checks, and we built an online cockpit so that editors are actually alerted to tasks and quality checks that require their attention, while in the background, thousands of workflows guide the articles through the pipeline. Now, does this model work? Yes, it does. Very occasionally, a bad paper may slip through because no system or human is foolproof, but we actually use these occasions to improve our operating procedures and the quality checks. Overall, open science works extremely well. And I'm going to illustrate this on two examples, Frontiers and the Public Library of Science, also called PLOS, which is one of the very first open science pioneers. So the success of open science can be measured through quality and impact. And we're going to start looking at quality first. So here what you can do is you can compare the citation rates of journals to each other. And when you do that, you'll find that open access journals are amongst the top most cited journals in the world. Take, for example, PLOS One. Now, this is a multidisciplinary open access journal which was started at the National Institutes of Health about 10 years ago, and within record time, this became the largest journal in the world. And PLOS One articles receive as many citations as 3 of the world's oldest and most famous science journals combined. Let's look at Frontiers. Frontiers publishes the 2 most cited psychology journals in the world, the most cited neuroscience publishing program, and the 2nd most cited physiology journal in the world. Now, quality obviously works. Let's look at readership impact. The 60,000 articles published so far received more than 250 million views from all over the world, massively in Europe, in the US, India, Latin America. And most strikingly, some of the most reading areas are economic hubs. Because we are today in the 4th industrial revolution. And most companies today, whether they're small or big alike, they all depend on technological and scientific innovation to survive and to thrive. And today's economy is a knowledge economy. And in this context, having efficient and open access to the latest science is important, not just for the innovation cycle, but as well for economic growth. And the best example to illustrate this is actually the Human Genome Project. Now here, at first, there was, serious attempts to patent genes and as well lock them away behind expensive subscription paywalls. But luckily for all of us, it was decided to make the human genome an open resource. And the impact of that has been enormous. The open gene databases have been used by geneticists to design the first gene editing therapies for cancer. And for every dollar invested, $145 were made in return. The Human Genome Project catalyzed the entire biotech industry, which today is an industry worth hundreds of billions of dollars every single year. So then, why do we need open science so urgently right now? Well, what makes me get out of bed every morning and build an open science platform like Frontiers is actually very simple. I want my children to live on a healthy planet. A planet where bees and frogs are not just things that you see in the Natural History Museum. And we are out of time to debate climate change. We gotta be implementing those solutions right now. And for that, we need access to our latest science results. Over the past 10 years, a range of remarkable pioneers, research institutions, funders, policymakers, they all brought to life open science. But the reality is that still today, 90% of our latest science results remain locked up. And if they remain locked up and delayed, those solutions may just not come in time. So just imagine, if we had full access to our latest science, how that would accelerate innovation, economic growth, and all the solutions that we need for a sustainable future. There've never been more scientists on this planet than today. They've never had more resources. They've never made more discoveries. We are today in a better position to solve any type of problem than ever before in human history. And science can bring us clean energy, sustainable cities, and healthy food. And we can make more money in the process. So yes, we can have it all. So let's just do it now. Let's make our science open. Thank you.
Okay. So how did you think of the video? It's good, right? Of course, it's a TED Talk, so it's all inspirational and all. But still, I think it's a very valid discussion, right? We're going to explore a little bit the platform she's talking about, which is Frontiers, as well as another open access platform. We're going to also explore a free journal, a green journal, sorry, and a golden journal, which is Frontiers and the other platform I've talked about, and one hybrid journal. So I'm going to present examples of everything she said. But before we do that, I want you guys to share your impressions, your notes, okay? So I'm going to go back to our Padlet, right? I'm going to create here a post for open science video. Pros and cons, okay? I'm going to give it some time for you guys to go here to this post, right? And share your notes, right? I want you to share your impressions. What are the pros and the cons? What are the good sides and the bad sides of open science, right? What are the advantages and the shortcomings? Any impressions at all, right? Of course, it's way easier to think of pros because she's advocating for open science, right? So she's biased. She has an open access journal, an open access platform, which is Frontiers. She has just explained for us what it's all about. She's very benefited from this platform. So all of our arguments are in this direction, right? So bear in mind that she's biased, right? She's advocating for a cause. So pros are going to be easier than cons, but I'm going to ask you to think critically and think what are the cons, what are the shortcomings, what are the consequences of having open science, okay? If you can think of any. I'm going to give you some time due to the delay, right? So I'm going to leave it here for you and I'll be back in a second to read your comments, okay? Okay, I'm back. Uh, was the stream suspended? So guys, I want you to tell me at up until which point were you able to listen? Were you able to listen the whole video? Was it suspended in the middle of the video? Up from which point do I need to repeat? Technical problems, right? Bound to happen. I'm sorry. Até onde vocês ouviram, pessoal? Okay. Okay, so just after the video. I was saying that we're going to explore a little bit some platforms. Okay, so we're going to explore a little bit. Okay, so we're going to explore some platforms, some journals that are golden journals, which are open, completely open access platforms, green journals, so self-archiving repositories, and hybrid journals, so the journals in which you have to pay an article processing fee in order to have your article made available for everybody. And we're going to explore all of those. But before we do that, I want you guys to share your impressions of the video in our Padlet board. Okay, so I have created there, if you can see there, a post for you guys to share, right? The pros and the cons of the open science video. As I was saying, of course, the girl in the video is advocating for open science. So she's biased, right? She is the owner, the CEO of an open science platform, right? So of course, it's going to be easier for us to think of pros because it's all of her arguments, right? But I'm going to ask you guys to make an effort and think of the cons as well. What are the consequences, right? What are the shortcomings? What are the impacts of open science in the editorial process, right? So I'm going to give you some time to share. I'm seeing that you guys are sharing already some of your notes there. So I'm going to give you some time, and then I'm going to read all of your impressions. Okay. Plus, did you like the video? Did you think it's interesting? I think it's a very interesting discussion to be made in the international context, right? Because it's so different from Brazil. I think we take open access to science for granted as Brazilians because we are very used to it. We're very used to having journals in Brazil that are open access, right? We're very used to not having trouble in accessing the texts we're supposed to, right? In the international community, it's not the same. It's not true for everybody. So the question of access to information and knowledge that is being produced, it's very important, I guess. What are your impressions? Let me see what you guys are saying. So Anonymous had pros: unlimited and easy access to the latest science researchers and findings. It can be used to implement changes and resolve problems. Very good. So it can contribute to society, advance in society, development in society. Cons: how to process high amount of articles with quality. That's a very good con, right? So there is a question on how to process and what is the cost of it as well, right? So who pays the bill? So Caroline said, pros: open science can help the planet. We could find solutions to our problems of sustainability. We could grow economically. We would have access to innovation. Very good. And she just posted cons, right? If you just open the researches, the quality can be forgotten. That's why it's important to be transparent about the editors and people who receive the researchers. Very good. It's a very good issue as well, Caroline, that you just pointed out, because sometimes the editors, the editorial process can impact on which researchers, which papers are published or not, are let into the journal or not, right? So that might be some partiality in the editorial process if we don't have access to the wholeness of it, right? So we cannot see transparently who are those people that are reading our papers and evaluating our papers, where they come from. We're discussing the context matters, who we are matters to our text. and who are reading our text also matter to our text, right? So all of this impacts in these editorial decisions, and further on they impact as well in the researchers that are published or not published. Okay. Pros. Money from university goes to process articles instead of paying to access them. Very good. So saving money. It's a very big pro, right? Fernanda. Pros. Important results available for anyone to see and use. Economic growth. Solutions can come in time because companies and people who create new technologies can access scientific knowledge. Transparency of who received the article, and so on. Very good, guys. Very good. Let's see your comments. Fernanda said, I really liked the video. She was very didactic using the metaphor of planes and air traffic control. And it was nice to know about data company opening and closed journals. Yeah, we're going to explain further in a minute, right? Those platforms. Renan. Acho interessante que nessa época de pandemia, os periódicos abriram as publicações sobre o vírus e aceleraram o processo de aprovação. Parece que eles sabem que é importante, só não aplicam. Pois é, Renan, muito pertinente seu comentário. E eu acho que isso mostra duas coisas: que eles sabem que é importante, como você disse, e que isso é possível. Né? Que é possível que se abra o acesso às publicações e é possível que se acelere o processo editorial, é claro, com algum custo, com algumas implicações, mas que isso pode ser feito em momentos pontuais como esse de crise. Né? No começo da live eu estava falando como que é muito relevante para a gente pensar o cenário e a comunidade internacional de pesquisa científica e a importância disso para contribuição coletiva, para a coletividade, né? Para a gente construir um conhecimento coletivo para chegar em soluções que nos ajudem coletivamente. Né? Então, nessa época da pandemia, isso ficou muito claro. Né? Como que os pesquisadores, os cientistas do mundo todo precisam colaborar, precisam conversar, né? Para chegar em um acordo mútuo, né? Chegar a um conhecimento mútuo. E isso só pode ser feito se a gente participar dessa comunidade científica internacional. Se essa comunidade existir, primeiramente, né? Como existe, e se a gente puder ter acesso a ela, se a gente puder participar dessas conversas, produzir conhecimento, ler o conhecimento que está sendo produzido. E só assim a gente consegue colaborar em nível global, né, para achar as melhores soluções. Isso só é possível se a gente dominar os sistemas semióticos, né? Então aqui eu estou falando, no meu caso, da língua inglesa, que nos permita participar desse sistema. Né? Então a gente só consegue participar no sistema, nessa comunidade internacional científica, se a gente dominar a língua inglesa acadêmica. Né? Se a gente conseguir produzir artigos acadêmicos e conseguir ler artigos acadêmicos e entendê-los. Ok? Muito legal a contribuição de vocês, gente. Mais 2 comentários, ó. A minha Annie said. Pros. More people can get access to scientific knowledge and make scientific decisions, especially in public policies. Very good. Cons. There are people working to maintain the journal. These people need to be paid, and how we deal with this. Right? Very good. We're going to see that they are still paid. Those people, those journals are still paid, so there is no free lunch, right? The difference is how they pay them and where the money goes, right? So usually journals are maintained when they abide by an open access platform through the APC, so article processing charge. So somebody still has to pay the article processing charge in order for the article to be available on open access. Okay? Anonymous said, pros, people who paid taxes, the research can actually see the results of their taxes. Of course, that's very important. I guess this should be the main goal for any research or actions. Give it back to society. Absolutely, absolutely. Very well said. Okay, guys, very good. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. Okay. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to explore some open science platforms, okay? So I'm going to show you some repositories, some options for us to explore these platforms, right? I'm going to show you very quickly because we're running out of time. And I also have to explain the homework. So I'm going to show you an overview. I'm going to show you how they work very quickly, and then if you want to, if you're interested, you can explore them further on your own in your homes. There's also a homework that is going to be related to one of the open access platforms that you're going to choose. Okay, so let's start with a classic journal, so a more traditional journal. So let's go back to Chrome. Let me see where it is. Okay. So this is a journal that is available on PubMed. So PubMed is a repository. So it indexes several journals. So if you go to PubMed, you can have access to different journals, similar to what Cielo does for us in Brazil, or Web of Science also does for us in Brazil. Okay, so that's PubMed. So this is called Association of Behavior Analysis International. So this is a journal. You can see the publications here, the editions, the volumes, and if you click here on the banner, you have just a little disclaimer of what the article is all about. Can you guys see it? Let me see. You don't see the other window. How do I? Just a second. How do I? I want to show you a different window. Just a second, guys. Technical problems. Adicionar. Captura de janela. Okay. Yes. Very good. I guess now you can see it. Okay. So this is the disclaimer of the journal, right? So perspectives on behavior science. So there is a little explanation on what is the journal all about, right? You have here submission guidelines. So if you want to publish, right, in this article, what do you have to follow? And also submit manuscript, okay? We'll have the name of the responsible. So in this case, Christopher Newland is the editor-in-chief. And we also have the publishing model. So that's what's key for us here, right? So this is a hybrid journal, right? So if you remember what a hybrid journal is that there are articles or papers that are available in this journal that are open access, and some of them are closed under subscription paywall, right? If you want to publish your article under open access mode, you have to pay a fee, right? So if you click in open access options available, hopefully it will redirect you to how to do it, right? So what are the values? It's just loading, guys. Just a second. So what are the values? How much you have to pay? Right? So what are the advantages and disadvantages? I want to show you the values. Do we have it here? Well, I don't think we do for this article specifically, right? So this is a hybrid journal, okay? So this is what it looks like. It's very similar to what we know of a journal in Brazil. The difference is that we have some, we have some articles that are available for us in open access in these hybrid journals, and some are not. If you go here, for example, in the latest published version, right, we're going to see that we're going to have access to some articles, right, and some not, right? We don't have access to all of the articles published, but we have access to several because they are published in open access mode. Okay, so this is a hybrid journal. Association for Behavior Analysis International, right? I've chosen this specifically because of you guys, right? Behavior analysis. Have any questions about this? Denise, quando a gente estiver vendo as plataformas Open Access, algumas delas mostram os valores. Aí eu vou te mostrar os valores, tá? Os valores são todos em dólar, porque a comunidade é internacional. E aí, enfim, né? Vai depender da cotação do dólar, mas a gente vai ver que não é muito barato, ok? Mas a gente vai chegar lá. Então, esse foi o nosso Hybrid Journal. Agora eu vou mostrar para vocês um Green Journal, né? Que não chega a ser um journal, na verdade, porque ele é um repositório, né? Então, ele é um repositório, nesse caso, mantido pela Universidade de Cornell, né? This one is called Archive, é o mais conhecido, né? O repositório Green mais conhecido. Só que ele pende mais, né? Ele lida mais com as áreas exatas, né? Das ciências exatas. Então, a gente tem aqui Physics, Mathematics, Computer Science, Quantitative Biology, Quantitative Finance, Statistics, so on and so forth, né? Então, for human sciences and even psychology, there's no much to be shared, ok? Mas se você for aqui, por exemplo, astrophysics, né? A gente tem acesso a alguns artigos, então a gente tem artigos divididos por ano, então vou, por exemplo, para 2019. Essas versões que a gente tem acesso, let's see. Essas versões que a gente tem acesso não são as versões finais, são as versões que eles chamam de near final ou pre-final, preprint, né? Que são as versões que os autores disponibilizam por vontade própria, uma vez que eles enviam para journals que não são open access, right? Então você pode ter acesso, mas se você for citar esse journal, você tem que citá-lo conforme ele está indexado no journal no qual ele foi publicado, ok? Então você pode, por exemplo, clicar aqui em PDF, e aí você tem acesso ao journal, ao paper, ok? Conforme foi publicado, em uma versão near final. Então, depois do peer review, depois das correções, ele foi indexado nesse repositório, ok? Very good. Alguma pergunta? Então, esse foi um Green Journal. E agora eu vou mostrar para vocês dois Golden Journals, né? São duas plataformas de publicação in Open Access. Então, um deles chama F1000 Research, e o outro é o Frontiers, que é a plataforma que a moça no vídeo falou para a gente. Ok? Então, vamos começar com Frontiers. Ó. Então, Frontiers é um Open Access Platform, né? Todo o processo editorial deles é transparente. Então, você vai lá, por exemplo, em Journals. Você vê as divisões do site. Então, a gente tem uma divisão para ensino básico, né? Young Minds. Então, na verdade, é uma iniciativa de divulgação científica para o ensino básico. Então, não diz respeito a gente nesse momento, né? E aí a gente tem as divisões a partir das áreas do conhecimento, né? Então, por exemplo, Behavioral Neuroscience, né? E aí a gente tem as divisões, ó, Behavioral Neuroscience, Behavioral Endocrinology, Behavioral Neuroscience Archive, Learning and Memory. Então, vamos clicar em Learning and Memory para ver o que a gente encontra. Né? Então a gente tem todo o corpo editorial dessa seção, dessa divisão da plataforma, né? Enfim, novidades, últimas publicações, e aí eles funcionam com chamadas, né? Call for papers, que eles chamam de research topics. Né? Então, se você falar em research topics, você vai ver diferentes temas, diferentes chamadas para trabalhos. Né? Então, por exemplo, vamos achar um aqui. The role of drug resistance mechanism in tumor, blá, 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 blá. Então, da área das biológicas, né? Eles têm um overview explicando o que é o topic, né? O que são research topics, as pessoas que são responsáveis, então as pessoas que vão revisar o seu trabalho, né? A gente tem as deadlines, né? Então até quando você precisa mandar o abstract e o manuscript para eles, para ser publicado. Então é como se fosse uma chamada por trabalhos, ok? E aí você pode fazer a submissão primeiro do seu abstract e depois do seu manuscrito, ok? Então isso se você quiser publicar. Se você quiser ler, você pode ir na seção Articles ali em cima e aí procurar articles que sejam do seu campo de pesquisa, ok? Então, por exemplo, se eu clicar aqui, vocês vão ver que não tem subscription paywall, que eu tenho acesso ao artigo todo, né? Todo completo. Né? Então, eu tenho aqui o nome dos autores, né? Em que momento o editorial ele está, né? Então, ele está provisionally accepted. Então, ele não foi finalmente aceito, né? Então, ele precisa fazer novas versões, novas publicações, e tudo isso é visto, tudo isso é acompanhado nessa página, ok? Agora vamos ver a publicação e os valores do APC, né? Então, vamos lá. Deixa eu achar aqui. Aqui, Submit. Acho que é aqui. Então, da mesma maneira, assim como nos journals mais... Não é aqui. Assim como nos journals mais renomados e mais antigos, Deixa eu lembrar onde que é. Publishing Model. É... Não. Publishing Fees. Aqui. Então aqui a gente tem os valores, né? Então esse é o valor do Article Processing Charge, ok? Os valores eles variam conforme a área do conhecimento. Então, por exemplo, for Behavior Neuroscience, né? E os tipos de artigo, né? Então a gente tem A-type, B-type, C-type e D-type, né? Então dependendo do tipo de artigo, né? Do tipo de texto, geralmente research paper é A-type article, tá? Então a gente tem, por exemplo, notas de campo, revisão de literatura, como nos os outros tipos, né? Mas trabalhos com inovação, trabalhos de pesquisa que apresentam novas informações são geralmente considerados dentro do A-type articles, né? E aí, dependendo da área do conhecimento, a gente tem esses valores para a publicação. Então, esse é o valor do APC, Article Processing Charge. Esse valor, como eu disse, pode ser pago tanto pelo autor, quanto pela instituição, quanto pelo funder. Okay? Very good. So this is one of the platforms, right? If you explore further this section, right, here, author guidelines. This is what I was looking for, right? So if you read here, you're going to see what is needed for you in order to publish here. So what your text has to have, right? So what is their policy? So just like you saw for traditional journals, what are the guidelines, right? You can go here and explore further what are the guidelines for authors, okay? I'm going to show you another one, which is a little bit easier, which is called F100. Do you have any questions so far? Are you guys following? So as you saw, one of the consequences is that you still have to pay a APC, right? So it's not completely free, even in those open access platforms, right? So as I said, there's no free lunch. Somebody has to pay for this access, right? Either if it's the government, the funder of your research, or the author, him or herself, okay? So that's one F1000 research, okay? So it's very similar to Frontiers. The difference is that it doesn't have call for papers, right? It's fluxo contínuo, as we say in Portuguese. So they accept articles whenever, right? From a plethora of themes, right? So you don't have to fit your article into a theme, right? Sorry. So let's see. If you go to browse, they're going to show you the latest articles that were submitted to the platform, right? And their status, their editorial status, right? So for example, this article is awaiting peer review. So it hasn't been reviewed yet, right? They have two symbols. They have the question mark symbol, right? And the tick symbol, right? Very good. So in order for an article to be accepted, right, completely accepted in the platform, it has to be reviewed, peer-reviewed twice in the platform, right? If they receive a tick, a green tick, it means the review, the article was approved, accepted, right? So there are no adjustments to be made. Okay, if it's a green tick, the article receives two green ticks, so if it's reviewed twice as appropriate, as approved, it can be indexed in databases, right? Then it's made available to everybody. If it receives a question mark, right, a green question mark, it means that it's approved with reservations, right? So it is approved, but you have to make adjustments in your article in order to have it published, right? To have indexed in databases such as PubMed, Scopus, right? For us in Brazil, Web of Science, Cielo, so on and so forth, right? You can also receive a X, right? In this case, the article is not approved, right? But you still can submit different versions, right? So let's see, for example, this one. If you click on the link of the article, right, you can see that you have access to everything, right? The whole paper. Very good. And you also, so we have access to the author, who is it, right? Where it's from. And you also have access to the peer review process, right? So in this case, we have two reviewers, right? We have one reviewer that is from China, right? Actually, yeah, so we have a couple reviewers that are from China, right? And we have a second para review that is from Canada, right? So both of them have read this article, right? And either approved or not approved. So the first reviewer approved with reservations and also submitted a report, right? So what was this article approved with reservations, right? So you can have access to everything, the whole editorial process here. The second reviewer did not approve this article, right? And then you have the evaluation here. Why? Right? So once it has three question marks, so three approvals with reservations, or two approvals without reservations, it can be indexed in a database. Okay. How can you publish in this platform? So let's see article guidelines. Okay, so so if you want to publish a research article, which is our case, you have to follow some guidelines. Okay, so there is a criteria for language, and there are 16 criteria you have to meet. Okay, so you need to consider everything that is written here in order to publish, in order to submit your research to this platform. Okay, let's take a look at the body of the text. Okay, what are the sections they ask of us? Okay, so they ask of us 4 sections, right? So despite title, abstract, keywords, right? For the main body, we need to have an introduction, methods, results, and conclusion, right? Or discussion. And then references, images, data, so on and so forth, right? So if you want to publish in this platform, you need to read all of these guidelines, okay? You need to be acquainted with all of these guidelines. Let's see the article processing charge. Okay, so how much do you have to pay in order to publish here? Okay, so this platform varies their prices according to the length of the article. Okay, so you have the cheapest is $150, right? Up until $2,000, right? For extra long articles. Okay. So if you want to publish here, if you want to submit an article here, there is an HC that needs to be paid, again, either by you as a researcher, your institution, or the funder. Okay? So this is our 2 open access platforms, F1000, Research, and Frontiers. Do you guys have any questions? No, I want to see your comments. Here, comments. Yeah, it's shocking, the price, isn't it? Again, I think it comes to reinforce the importance of open science and make us value the system, the editorial system we have in Brazil, right? So we as researchers, most of us funded by public institutions, public organizations, in a public university, have access to a lot of benefits that are not taken for granted, that are not the same for the international community, right? So this is something for us to think, okay? Guys, we are coming to the end of our... It shows, yes, it shows all the editorial process. Everything is very transparent, right? Okay, so we're coming to the end of our live. So it has been 2 hours already. And just for us to finish, okay, I want to explain our homework, right? So as I said in the beginning, our course is going to be divided as following. So we're going to have these webinars, which is going to be the theoretical part, in which I will try to interact with you, explain some concepts of everything we're going to be working on throughout the course. And then I'm going to assign you with some practical work, right? Which is usually writing, right? In different forms. But we're going to do this in a procedural manner. So we're going to be writing bits by bits. So don't worry. You're not going to even perceive it. But by the end of the semester, by the end of the course, you're going to have a fully complete article to be published if you want to. Okay, so I have for you 2 homeworks. I have posted both on our Google Classroom platform. So I have some explanation there. The first one is related to what you have already done, right? So I've asked you guys to explore a journal of your choice in which you'd like to publish your article, maybe a journal that you have already read, that you are used to reading, right? And to go to author submission guidelines. Okay, so what do you have to do? What your text has to have in order to publish there. Okay, what I want you to do now is to explore one of those two open access platforms that I've just shown you. So Frontiers or F1000. I want you to explore a little bit the author guidelines as well. So we have seen the author guidelines for F1000. So there is instructions for the language, the data, availability, and I want you to compare, okay? So what are the differences between the guidelines for this journal you have previously researched, okay, the journal of your choice, and this open access platform, okay? So what is different between them? I have posted 3 questions on our Google Classroom, and I want you guys to answer those 3 questions, okay? First, what is the type of journal you have researched previously? So is it a closed access journal? Is it a hybrid journal? Is it a golden journal? Is it a green journal? Okay, so what is the type? What are the differences between the guidelines? So what do you need to do, right? What do you need to have on your article in order to publish there, right? So what are the demands? And then later on, to finish, I want you guys to reflect upon which of those 2 platforms would you like to publish your work on and why. Okay, so which of those 2 are more appropriate to your reality and your work and why. Okay, so this is the first thing. This is our first homework. Do you guys have any questions before we go to the second one? So if everybody understood, just tell me you understood. I know there is a delay, so I need to like wait a little bit before the answers are shown up to me. While you answer, I'm going to show you where in Google Classroom you can find the activity, the homework I've just posted. Okay, so this is our Google Classroom, Análise do Comportamento Academic Writing 2, right? And you're going to see that I posted 2 activities, okay? So Submission Guidelines Comparative, this is the one, this is the first I've talked about, right? So if you go to instructions, you're going to see the 3 questions I've just told you, okay? So the journal you have researched before belong to which type? Okay, so the journal from our homework, from our first class, is it a golden journal, a green hybrid journal, or protected by a subscription paywall, so not open access at all, right? And then what are the differences between the guidelines, okay? So the first journal I have researched, maybe they ask me to include a literature review section, and this other journal does not ask me to include the literature review section. In the first journal, I don't need to make data accessible. I don't need to show all of my data, all of my lab notes. In the second platform, I do need to publish my lab notes. I need to have all of my data accessible, right? And then which of those 2 journals best fits your purpose and why? Okay, so you have the whole week to do this. I'm just going to ask you to publish it, to send this text before our next class, so which is going to be next week, right? So this is our first activity. Let me see if you have questions. Yes, é isso mesmo, Caroline. O que vocês tinham escolhido com Frontiers ou o F1000. E aí vocês podem escolher, de novo, se vocês vão comparar ou com Frontiers ou com o F1000, ok? Então essa é a primeira tarefa. A segunda tarefa é a criação de um mind map, ok? E aqui a gente vai começar a pensar na organização do nosso texto mesmo, ok? Deixa eu ver se está aparecendo para vocês. Tá. Então eu fiz como exemplo um mind map da minha pesquisa, ok? Do que eu pesquiso. Então, Depois de eu ter decidido qual dos dois periódicos ou qual periódico é melhor, mais apropriado para as minhas necessidades, né, eu vou elencar lá quais são as seções que o meu texto precisa ter. Né? Então, por exemplo, no periódico que eu decidi, o meu texto tem que ter Introduction, Literature Review, Methodology, Results, Discussion and Conclusion, ok? Então são essas as seções que eu vou adicionar no meu Mind Map, ok? Então essa é uma plataforma chamada MindMeister. É muito facinho de usar, então se você clicar 2 vezes aqui, ó, você consegue adicionar novos balões, né? Você pode adicionar com o botão de adicionar aqui em cima, né? Ou apertando o Tab, né? Então você, por exemplo, eu quero adicionar uma seção aqui. Eu clico aqui, aperto o Tab e consigo adicionar mais uma seção. Ok? Então eu quero que vocês coloquem o título da pesquisa de vocês no meio, tá? Eu sei que muitos de vocês ainda estão em estágio inicial da pesquisa. Queria que vocês tivessem em mente que nesse momento não existe muito certo ou errado. Aqui é mais uma atividade de pre-writing, né? Para a gente fazer um brainstorming mesmo das informações que eu posso vir a colocar, que eu posso vir a mobilizar na hora de escrever o meu texto, né? Então eu vou colocar cada uma das sessões que vai ser pedida para mim com base naquilo que eu já tinha feito, né? Então com base naquele comparativo e na decisão que eu fiz sobre qual dos periódicos é mais apropriado às minhas necessidades. E aí dentro de cada uma dessas sessões eu vou elencar que tipo de informação eu preciso colocar. Ok? Então, por exemplo, eu fiz da introdução lá como exemplo. Então, na minha introdução, eu tenho que começar com uma contextualização, e para isso eu uso uma narrativa própria. Aí eu falo do momento sociopolítico do Brasil, eu falo de educação, e aí eu vou falar de políticas educacionais, aí eu apresento minhas perguntas de pesquisa e falo um pouquinho da organização do artigo. Então, essas são as informações que eu vou ter na minha introdução. Aí eu vou para a Literature Review e falo a mesma coisa. Quais são os conceitos que eu preciso escrever? Né? Quais são as pesquisas que eu vou citar, metodologia a mesma coisa, resultados, enfim. Qual tipo de informação eu vou mobilizar em cada uma dessas sessões? De novo, nesse momento não existe certo ou errado, ok? Eu quero que vocês façam, eu quero que vocês tenham essa ferramenta disponível para vocês. Isso pode ser mudado conforme vocês vão explorando, conforme a gente vai caminhando no curso, né? Então vocês podem voltar e tirar. Eu coloquei uma coisa na minha introdução, mas eu vi que não nada a ver, mudei de ideia, não quero mais, eu posso vir aqui e tirar, tá? Então eu quero que vocês tenham esse momento, esse exercício de organização textual, ok? Que vocês pensem que tipo de sessões eu vou ter no meu texto e que tipo de informação eu vou incluir em cada uma dessas sessões, ok? Vocês conseguem acessar pelo link lá que eu coloquei para vocês. É muito fácil mexer nessa plataforma, é só fazer o login, é gratuita, e vocês conseguem fazer esse mind map. Assim que vocês tiverem terminado, é só vocês virem aqui e clicar em compartilhar, e aí vai gerar um link, então link para compartilhar, vai gerar um link e vocês podem ou me convidar por e-mail, né? Então vocês podem incluir meu e-mail e convidar, ou enviar o link para mim, ok? Tanto um quanto o outro vai ser aceito. E de novo, vou dar uma semana para vocês fazerem essa atividade. Ok? Então, a parte prática da atividade de atividades dessa semana é isso. É o comparativo e a construção do mind map. Ok? Ficou alguma dúvida, pessoal? Sim, os artigos são individuais, Caroline. São todos. Nesse momento, a gente pode até pensar como faremos, mas nesse momento, os trabalhos vão ser entregues individualmente. Sim. Né? Se alguém estiver trabalhando em grupo, já é do mesmo grupo de pesquisa e quiser conversar comigo, me manda um e-mail, tá? E a gente pode conversar. Mas no primeiro momento, os trabalhos são individuais, né? E pelo menos nesse momento de mind map e de comparativo, os trabalhos são individuais. Ok? Mais alguma pergunta, pessoal? As atividades, Letícia, elas devem ser submetidas na plataforma do Google Classroom, ok? Existe um espaço para a atividade do comparativo e um espaço para a atividade do mind map, ok? Vocês podem enviar as duas lá no Google Classroom. Ok? E aí as duas têm o mesmo prazo, tá? Então, semana que vem, antes da aula. Eu coloquei dia 14/4, 1h59, né? Então, 1 minuto antes da nossa aula. Se ficar alguma dúvida, sei lá, não pensei na hora, mas agora que eu estou fazendo atividade, não consegui entender essa parte da atividade, me manda um e-mail ou publica lá no nosso Google Classroom, tá? O nosso Google Classroom é um espaço nosso, a gente pode usar ele como a gente quiser, para os nossos propósitos, né? Então, se vocês tiverem alguma dúvida e postarem lá, pode ser até que os colegas ajudem, né? Pode ser que vocês colaborem com os colegas. Então, é o espaço de vocês, vocês podem postar, podem conversar, podem interagir por lá também. Ok? Bom, nosso webinar vai acabando, então, por aqui. Gostei muito de estar aqui com vocês. Sinto falta dessa interação mais imediata. É muito diferente estar conversando com o computador e estar conversando com pessoas. Tudo bem que existem pessoas do outro lado da tela do computador, mas é uma situação totalmente diferente. Mas é interessante da gente explorar essas possibilidades, né? Pessoal, muito obrigado por terem me acompanhado até aqui. Qualquer dúvida, a gente pode ir conversando durante a semana. Estou disponível tanto no e-mail quanto no Google Classroom. Alguma coisa que não ficou clara, a live vai ficar gravada. Vocês podem retornar e assistir ela mais de uma vez se vocês quiserem. Mas é isso. Então, muito obrigado por terem vindo. Tenham uma boa semana. E eu vejo vocês, ou vocês me veem, na semana que vem. Obrigado, pessoal. Tchau, tchau. Então, encerrar a transmissão.